Daf Ayin Amud Aleph will begin Daf Samach Tes Amud Beis, the Mishnah towards the bottom of the Amud. So like the Mishnah, maybe Chagiga Ima. When is it that you bring the Korban Chagiga with the Korban Pesach? What we're discussing over here is the Korban Chagiga that comes with the Korban Pesach. It's Chagigas called Chagigas Yudalid, as opposed to the Korban Chagiga that comes on all the Sholosh Regalim. Pasuk says, there's a chiyuv to bring a korban chagiga on the chag, to bring a korban chagiga, and that's all the sholosh regalim. So there's a korban oilus riyah, v'lo yisero panai reikam. We have a chiyuv to bring an oilus riyah for the chag, a korban chagiga. But what we're discussing over here in the Mishnah now is not the chagiga of the chag. It's the chagiga of Yudalid, that when needed, there would be an additional korban chagiga that was brought together with the korban pesach, in order that the korban pesach should be nechal b'seiva, ala seiva. It should be eaten with a feeling of one is satisfied, not when one is hungry. So this is our Tana holds that this korban chagiga's Yudalid is not an absolute chayva. It's not an absolute chayva, and therefore it's not doiches Shabbos. So therefore, a mose maybe chagiga yimoy. When does one bring the korban chagiga together with the korban pesach? Bisman shu b'chol. When Yudalid, the korban pesach, is brought on a weekday. But if it's brought on Shabbos, if Yudalid is on Shabbos, you don't bring the korban chagiga because it's not a chayva. It's not an absolute chayva, so it's not doiches Shabbos. Bitara, and also when the korban pesach is brought, bitara. Because if it's brought betuma, even though the korban pesach, we say hutra b'tzibur, because that's a chayva, but the chagiga is not brought betuma. Over muad, and only we bring this korban chagiga when there is only a small amount, it's not a large amount, it's when it's bemuad, it's not large enough to satiate the people who are eating it. And therefore you need the korban chagiga to be mashlamit, to give them enough to eat so that they are satiated. But, however, bisman shu ba b'Shabbos, when the korban pesach comes on Shabbos beruba, and it's large, meaning there are not that many people in the chabur. The korban is large, there's enough meat. They don't need the korban chagiga, then they don't bring it. Ubatuma, or when they're tomei, they don't bring the korban chagiga. Then ein mevin imay chagiga. So discussing other halachas about the korban chagiga. Chagiga haisavo min atzayim. The korban chagiga, you could bring it from the tzayim, from sheep, min abokar, from cattle, min kvosim, min izim. You can bring it whether it's kvosim, so whether it's from sheep or goats, min izcharim, min akeves. So as opposed to the korban pesach, which is specifically min atzayin zochar, here the korban chagiga can be brought from all these other types of animals. And v'ne'achelos l'shnei yomim v'layla echad. And as opposed to the korban pesach, which is only for a day and a night, here it has a din like a shlomim, and it can be eaten for 2 days and 1 night. So, frag the Gemara, man atana the ktani chagiga. What did we learn earlier? That now in the states the Tana to talk about korban chagiga. We were talking previously about the korban pesach. Why do we now talk about the korban chagiga? So the more answers, because previously we learned in the Mishnah Tana Hakavosa V'Havos, and we talked about carrying the korban pesach and bringing it up from outside the tchum, the loidochi shabbos, that it's not doiches Shabbos. So we discussed the korban, where and what parts of the korban pesach, what aspects of it are not doiches Shabbos, even though the korban pesach is, but certain aspects are not. So ktani nami chagiga the loidochi Shabbos. So therefore it mentions also the chagiga that's not doiches Shabbos. V'hachi komer eimosay mevi moy chagiga. When do we bring a chagiga? With the korban pesach, with the man shubon b'chol b'tar v'muad. So we're discussing previously about being doiches Shabbos. Now we talk about the chagiga and say, when do we bring the chagiga? When is it? When it's not Shabbos, but for Shabbos it's not doiches Shabbos. Amar Ravashi Shma Mina Chagigas HaBasar. We can learn from here that the Korban Chagiga Basar Lav Chayva. It's not an absolute chayv. It's not a chayv disal gedaita chayvei, because if it would be teisei b'shabbos, b'teisei b'meruah, b'teisei b'tumah. If it would be, then it would have all of these aspects, just like the korban chiyuv chayvas yom, and it would be daiche Shabbos, and it would be daiche tumah, and you would have to bring it even if there is enough meat from the korban pesach to satisfy the people. You would still have to bring it. So apparently, our Tana is learning that the Korban Chagiga is not an absolute chayva. So, for example, okay, muad, miu, my time has, but when it's muad, when the Korban Pesach is not sufficient to satisfy the people, you do bring the Korban Chagiga. So, if it's not an absolute chayva, why do we bring it? More answers, Kedusanya. Chagiga haboima Pesach necheles tchila kedei Pesach nechel alasayva. The chagiga that comes on Yudal, that comes with Korban Pesach, it's you first eat from this chagiga so that the Pesach should be nechel al hasayva. That there's a mitzvah to eat the Korban Pesach al hasayva, to eat it in a state, in a matzav of being satiated. And therefore, we bring, if the Korban Pesach there's enough meat from the Korban Pesach to satisfy the people, it's not necessary. But if there's a large chabura, a small animal, there's not enough meat from the Korban Pesach to satisfy the people, we bring a Korban Chagiga in order that the Pesach should be nechal al haseiva. So it's brought in conjunction with the Korban Pesach for that purpose. Rashi says that the reason that it's nechal al seiva, the purpose of it is a derech of kovet. It's a kovet for the Korban Pesach. It's a derech kovet to eat the Korban Pesach, not when you're starving, not when you're hungry, but a feeling of being satisfied. So it's a kovet for the Korban Pesach. Tosfos says that it is a derabanan. It's a derabanan so that you don't come to lidei shviras etzem. There's an issur that allows to not to break the bones. We're afraid that if the people are not satisfied, if they're not full, they'll come to break the bones to eat the marrow. Therefore, we want to ensure that they're satisfied so they don't come to that. So it's a mitzvah rabbanon as a safeguard to that. Other Rishonim, Rambam, others Rishonim seem to learn that it is a din d'oraisa. If it's not necessary, then our Tana holds it's not a chayva. Then you don't have to bring it. But when you do bring it, it's brought in conjunction with the Korban Pesach. There is much discussion in the Forshim, when is it brought? The Korban Pesach is brought Bein Arbaim. It's brought in the afternoon after the Talmud Shel Bein Arbaim. Is the Chagiga brought in the same way, at the same time? Or is it Lav Davka? Is it brought any time Erev Pesach? Or is it brought in the afternoon, but before the Talmud Shel Bein Arbaim? So that's a discussion in the various Meforshim. When exactly is it brought? The Mizrahi says that it's brought any time in Erev Pesach. The Korban Chagiga, as opposed to the Korban Pesach, is eaten for 2 days and 1 night. Our Mishnah, our Tana, is not like the Shita Ben Tema. The sign we learned the Bryce of Ben Tema. He says, Chagiga Yomi Pesach, Hareka Pesach. It's like the Korban Pesach. So it's just like the Korban Pesach, and just like the Korban Pesach is only for 1 day and a night, so too the Chagiga. The Chagiga is Chamisha Asar, but Chagiga of the 15th of Chagiga, which is a chayva of to bring a Chagoisam, Isa, Chag, Lashem, that is an absolute chiyuv, the chiyuv of bringing the Korban Chagiga, that's Nechel L'Shnei Yomim V'Layla Echad. That the Chagiga of the 15th is not a korban that's brought in conjunction with the Korban Pesach. That's independent of the Korban Pesach, and it has a din like a Shlomim. It's for 2 days and 1 night. V'Chagiga Sar B'Osar. So Ben Tema continues, and he says, Chagiga Sar B'Osar Yaitza B'Mishum Simcha. You can be yaitza that with the chiyuv of v'samachta b'chagiecha. There's a chiyuv on yontiv v'samachta b'chagiecha. You have to eat the meat of korbanos. You can be yaitza with the chagika of arbasa. You can be yaitza that as long as you eat the simcha, even though the mitzvah of simcha, and normally we say that a dover that there's a mitzvah, you're not yaitza with a dover b'chayva. You're not yaitza with a korban that's of a chayva that you have to bring it. But over here, you could be yaitza simcha with the chagigas habasa. You could be, because the way the Chazon Ish explained is that the mitzvah of simcha is not a mitzvah of bringing the korban. When you have a chiyuv of a korban, you can't be yaitza your chiyuv of a korban with a dover shebechayva, with a korban that you are obligated to anyway. But over here, samachta is not the chiyuv to bring the korban; it's the chiyuv to eat the meat of the korban. So therefore, you can be yaitza the mitzvah of samachta b'chagiga with the chagigas arbasa. Ve'ena yaitza bo mishum chagiga, but you cannot be yaitza your chayva of the chagiga of the 15th of the chag. You can't be yaitza with that chagiga. You can't be yaitza with the chagiga of Yud Daled. My time of the Ben Taima, why does he argue with our Tana? And why does he say that it's a chayva? Why does he say that the Yud Daled, the korban or Yud Daled that we say, is that it's like the Korban Pesach? It has the same dinim of the Korban Pesach. Now, whether it's an absolute chayva or not, actually, is a machlokes rishonim. Tosfos says that it's a chayva, and Tosfos learns in Ben Taima that it would be doicha Shabbos. Other rishonim learn in Ben Taima that it's a deraisa, but it's not a chayva. It's when it's necessary. It is a deraisa, but it's not an absolute chayva, and therefore it's not doicha Shabbos. But Al Kolpanim, in any event, Ben Taima says that the korban Yud Daled, the chagigas Yud Daled, is like the korban Pesach, and has the same dinim of the korban Pesach. It has makor in the Torah, and therefore, as opposed to chagigas Tezvav, which is eaten for 2 days and a night, here it's only for 1 day and a night. So what my time in the Ben Taima Kedamase Rav Lechia Berei, the pasuk says v'lo yalin laboker zevach chag hapasach. It says don't leave over to the morning the zevach chag hapasach. Don't leave it over to the morning. Now it didn't have to say zevach chag. The zevach chag, it says zevach chag. That's a reference to chagiga. A Pesach kimashmo. That's a korban Pesach. V'amar Achman lo yolin. And the Torah says, don't leave it over to the next morning. So you see clearly that the chagigas Yud Daled is only until the next morning. It's only for a day and a night, not for 2 days and a night. The Gemara has a shayla Ben Teva necheles sli oy eina necheles sli, where we say, according to Ben Teva, it has the din of a korban Pesach. We compare it to the korban Pesach. Does that mean in other respects as well? And it has other aspects of the korban Pesach, just like the korban Pesach has to be eaten roasted here also? Or no? It's restricted in the time limit that it's only at Baikera, but not Davka. It doesn't have to be eaten Davka roasted. Do we say ki yakshe rachmana lePesach lalina? That's only as far as not leaving it over to the morning. Aval it's li'anoya, but not as far as roasting or dim l'ishna. Or maybe there's no chilik. Shema, let's bring a rhyme from the following: Halayla zeh kuloi tzol. This night, the night of Pesach, is different than the other nights of the year because all the meat is eaten roasted. V'amar Rav Chisda zu divri ben Tema, and this is the shita ben Tema. Shema mino. So you see that he holds that as far as sli also, it's like the korban Pesach, and it has to be eaten roasted. In boiler, we have the following shayla ben Teva bo'mina bakar or yer bo'mina bakar. So continuing on with the same line of questioning, do we say, well, it has to be just like the korban Pesach? Does that mean it cannot come from cattle? Or perhaps it could. Bo'mina kevas, could it come from a nekeva? The animal, or mina kevas, or perhaps not, only mina zocher. Bas shtei shonim, could it be a 2-year-old? Or bas shtei shonim, or perhaps not, only 1-year-old. Do we say that the comparison to the Pesach, to the korban Pesach, is complete, and therefore it has to be only within the first year, and it has to be only zocher, and it has to be tzoyin? Or perhaps no. When we compare it to the manner of eating, but not into the type of the korban. Ki akshe rachmana lePesach Even though we say there's a hekish, the chagiga to the korban pesach, do we say that hekish when the Torah is makishet? That's lamida the achila. That's only for something that's eaten. It's only in the manner that it's eaten. But not in all respects, and therefore not in what the korban comes from. Or perhaps there's no chilik, and it's equated in all respects. Tashma, let's bring it right from the following. The Brisa says, Chagiga haboyim pesach. The korban chagiga that comes with the korban pesach. Arei ke pesach. It's like the korban pesach. Well, it has to come from the flock. And it doesn't come, it can't come from the cattle. It has to come from Zacharim ve'ena bo min hakeves, and not in the caves. Bal shnosa, it has to be within the first year. Ve'ena bo bal shtei shanim, but not beyond that, not within 2 years. Ve'ena ne'acheles ela leyayim v'layla, it can only be eaten for a day and night. Ve'ena ne'acheles ela tzali, and only roasted. Ve'ena ne'acheles ela lemenuya, and only for the people who are in the chabura. So man shamad leidis lehai svara, who's the one that holds of that svara, that we say that can only be eaten for a day and night, and not for 2 days and a night. That's bentema. Bentema shmamina kula milsa be'inan shmamina. Therefore, we see that the limud the bentema has, that the korban chagiga, the chagiga sudal is like the korban pesach. It has to be similar in all respects. In boya, who we have the following shayla bentema yesh ba mishum shviras etz. Does it also have the isser of breaking the bone? The korban pesach, there's an isser not to break the bone. Do we say that applies to the chagiga as well? So yesh bo mishum shviras etzem or ein bo mishum shviras etzem. So do we say afal gav dechi akshe rachman ula pesach? So do we say that even though the Torah compared it to the Pesach, but Omar Kroa boy, it says, however, it says ve'etzem loisishbu boy. So that's a miyah. Do we say boy v'loy b'chagiga? So maybe that means to exclude the korban chagiga. And there's no isser ashiras etzem by the korban chagiga. Idil ma'ai boy b'kosher v'loy b'posel udasa. Or do we say no, that the boy is not coming to exclude the chagiga? Maybe, perhaps, there is an isser of shiras etzem by the chagiga. What is it excluding? It's excluding the isser. It's only also to break the bone of the korban pesach that's kosher, but not of a posel. Where it's posel, it doesn't apply. So how do we learn this miyut of boy? So that's the shaila. Does like etzem like sishba boy? Do we say it's coming to exclude the korban chagiga, that there is no isser by the korban chagiga, or not? So that will be the discussion of the next Amud.